If you saw something suspicious, something that felt wrong, where maybe someone or something might need your help, would you check it out? If it was late at night on a poorly lit road in the rain, would you think twice, or would your humanistic urge to aid another life take control? We've all heard stories of horrible things people do in the night, and the horrible things that happen in the dark. Would the chance for you to make a difference, knowing what pain and suffering feels like, give you enough courage to make it right? It was another long week of work and depressing doctor visits. My wife and I were running on an empty tank for far longer than we could handle. We were on our last legs. The Sandman was already working hard. I could feel my eyes closing as I focused on the lines of my lane in the pale moonlight. The reflectors running along the lines helped a bit, but with the rain coming down as hard as it was, it made it a struggle. Remind me to get a new eye prescription on Monday. Okay, sweetheart? I asked my wife with a tired voice. Luckily, we were just down the road from home. The combination of tired and weak eyes was a dangerous one. You should have just let me drive, Sam said, fighting back the hurt that materialized as tears in the corners of her soft eyes. Next time, babe, I whispered and reached over, caressing her hand. She had been through enough. I was sick of watching her heartbreak over and over again. We were almost 4 months along this time around, and we thought that this was going to be it. We truly did. For the third time, we were heading back from the emergency department in anguish and defeat. I had a war waging inside of myself. My heart was aching, yet the rage building up heat in my blood was begging to boil over. I needed something, anything, a sign that everything was going to be okay. Sam needed to be okay. The scars a woman wears from enduring something so traumatic is a burden only the strongest can carry. We lived just off Route 642 and I was about to make our turn when I saw it in the rearview mirror. Somehow I must have missed it head on. It was a loosely tied burlap sack line in the center of the divider. I felt a strange sensation in the pit of my stomach. Something about it felt wrong. Look behind us, I said. Do you see that bag in the road? It's in the middle of the divider. I pointed over my shoulder, my eyes shifting back and forth from the road and the rearview mirror. I could swear that I saw something short and slim sticking out from the top of the bag. Yeah, why? What's wrong with it? There's always garbage in the road, my wife said. Well, it's huge. And it's not a garbage bag. It's like a potato sack or something. I pulled over at the entrance of our community. The insides of my stomach were churning like thick butter. I was at my breaking point with all these extreme emotions. Looking at that bag, I felt as if I had just witnessed a gruesome murder. The combination of fear and disgust was overwhelming. I looked again into the mirror. Now that we were stopped, I could confirm what I couldn't bear to come to terms with before. It was moving. I cut the wheel and I started to turn around. We need to take another look at that thing. Something about it is really bothering me. The words came out of my mouth in an anxious rhythm. Okay, just try to be quick and please be careful. You basically admitted just before that you can't see, she said, and couldn't contain the little chuckle that forced its way out from her lips. Yeah. Well, your blind driver caught the bag. I didn't hear you point it out, did I? I retorted lightheartedly. Okay, shut up. It's garbage. Why would I even be looking out for something like... My God! The shock of what we were seeing took the breath out of her lungs. There was a little arm hanging out of the top of the sack, helplessly trying to untie itself. What was attached to the arm, still inside the sack, was fumbling and knocking around. I pushed the pedal down to the floor of the car. When I pulled up next to the bag, I raced out of the car to untie it. I reached my arm inside and I pulled out a little girl, maybe between 10 or 12 years old. Her hair was long and black and matted across her face. She felt weak, and her breast sounded wet. She was cold to the touch and soaked from the rain. I threw her over my shoulder and I rushed back to the car. I swung open the backseat door and I laid her down. "Chris, oh my God, I can't believe I said it was garbage. I would have passed right by." My wife was wiping away more tears, destroyed by her realization. No, you wouldn't have. It's okay, babe, it's okay. We got her. We're going back to the hospital right now. Reach back and make sure that she still has a pulse. There's no time." I was putting the car in drive and flooring it back down Route 642. My heart was beating faster than I had ever felt before, faster than in all my years of athletics and training. "Chris," my wife's voice felt strained, even from saying that one word. "What? Is she dead? Did you feel a pulse?" "She's not back there." "What do you mean she's not back there?" I yelled and I slammed on the brakes. "I just felt her weight in my arms. I put her back there." I turned to look in the back seat. I threw my arm back and I felt around, not believing my own eyes. It was empty and dry as a bone. "No way. There's no way. Didn't you see her too?" I asked desperately. "I watched you the entire time, yes." Her words didn't comfort me. The validity of it made the situation an impossibility. I looked forward at the road. It was empty except for a wet burlap sack, sitting right in the middle of the divider. We were back by the entrance to our community again. "I'm just going to get out of the car again," I said between deep breaths. "I'm just going to get out and bring her back to the car. She needs our help and we're tired and it's late." "Chris, we did this. I know we did. Are you sure that that's a good idea? Maybe we should just go home." "No, we just can't go home. I'm getting out of the car now." "Sam," I took another deep breath. "Keep your eyes on me the entire time, okay?" "Okay." I stepped out of the car again, the rain coming down just as hard as before. I walked over to the bag, staring at the small arm trying to untie the knot at the top of the sack. Time felt like it was moving slower. Every step felt like an eternity. I wanted to save this poor girl, but this time I was afraid to open that bag and grab her like I did before. With a jerky motion, I reached in and I quickly pulled the knot loose before taking a giant step back. The arm that was reaching out of the bag stopped. It slowly withdrew itself back inside, like a snake. I could feel my heartbeat in my head. I could hear it throbbing in both of my ears. The bag was still. She wasn't moving. I wiped my eyes from the rain and I gathered the courage to grab her once more. I went to reach in before she shot her head out of the bag. And this time, her hair wasn't obstructing her face, and I could vaguely make it out under the dim streetlight. She was smiling. "I like this game," she said to me, and grabbed my arm with a force much greater than physically possible by a little girl. I felt like I fell 1,000 feet back into the driver's seat of my car. "Well, are you going?" Sam asked me. "What? Yeah, of course I am. I'll be right back," I said. I stepped out of the car, questioning my own sanity. My eyes were darting in every direction. The bag lay where it always did, in the center of the divider. Against all logical reasoning, I stepped toward it for the third time. As if the girl knew, she quickly untied the knot from the top of the bag and pulled it loose. She pulled herself out from the bag and pulled her hair back from her face. She was smiling again, and she ran towards me with an innocent gait. She extended her hand and placed it in mine once she had reached me. "I like you. Will you be my daddy?" she asked me. Only her sweet, gentle voice was dipping in and out of a demonic low pitch. She pointed to my car on the road, where Sam sat watching, eyes wide. "Will she be my mommy?" Her hand squeezed mine with that painful grip before releasing it. She vanished before my eyes. My wife let out a shrill cry from inside of the car. I started running towards her. Since my car door was open, I could see the little girl in the back seat, her smile growing wider and wider under the interior light. Her skin was weeping, swollen from being soaked from the rain for so long. It was almost transparent. Iridescent blue veins were swimming shallow under the surface. She was running her little fingers along my wife's arms, up and down, as if tickling her. "Hey!" I screamed towards the car. "Get out of the car! Leave my wife alone!" I jumped into the back seat and I grabbed the little girl by both arms, and I felt her wet flesh peel and slough off of the bone. I turned her body towards mine and she looked at me with sunken, pure black eyes. "What do you want from us? Why are you doing this?" "You are my new mommy and daddy. We're playing." She shrugged her shoulders and laughed. Her voice still fell in and out of that eerie, low pitch. "She isn't human," my wife screamed between sobs. "Get her out of here! Get us out of here!" I didn't think twice. She was right after all. I took her arms and I pulled her out of the car. I had anticipated a fight, but she didn't resist. She stood there in the road at the side of the car in the rain, while I made my way back into the driver's seat. She watched, her head tilted to the side with an inquisitive gaze as I shut the door, put the car in drive, and I drove away. I was waiting to end up right back in that same spot again, but we didn't. We made it into our driveway and we parked the car. My wife and I didn't speak a word, only exchanged glances at each other. We had a nonverbal agreement that words couldn't fix whatever we had just experienced. Sometimes silence is the only solution. We entered the code into the keypad to our front door before swinging it open. I flicked the light switch on the wall. In the middle of our living room floor lay the burlap sack, twitching on the floor. The door behind us slammed, and I heard the laughs of a little girl, muffled by the cries of my wife beside me. After a few nights of trying to get rid of her, we realized that it was futile. We tried simply throwing her out of the house, but every time she would appear back in our living room floor in that bag. I tried killing her, despite the awful act of hurting a child, even though she wasn't an actual child after all. I aimed my handgun at her and I pulled the trigger. I pulled the trigger 2 times and it wouldn't go off. Every muscle in my arm started contracting and started moving on its own. No matter how hard I tried to fight it and put the gun down, my arm moved until I was pointing the gun at my own head. "Please," I pleaded with the girl. "Please, I'm sorry, I'll stop." My arm lowered the gun from my head and it pointed it towards my wife. "Anything but that. Put it back on me." I was overwhelmed with defeat. The harder we tried, the angrier she would get. We even tried burning her inside of the bag, except it wouldn't burn at all. The flames fell off of the burlap sack like droplets of flaming water, and Sam and I felt her skin burn as if we were in the bag ourselves. We screamed and writhed in pain, rolling on the grass in our backyard as if we were smothered in flames, except we weren't on fire at all. Sam crawled over to the bag and untied it as quickly as she could. She pulled the girl out of the bag and held her hand between both of hers. "I'm sorry. We're yours." The pain subsided, yet we stayed down on the ground. I wrapped my arm around my wife's waist as she continued to hold the little girl's hand. We came to accept the fact that she wasn't going to leave. She needed us, and she did all she could to help us understand that we needed her too. We don't know exactly what she is, but when we treat her with kindness, she is calm. She's the daughter that we could never have.